Well, welcome to the Differently podcast. My name is Breeze. If you are new here, this podcast is for purpose-driven artists and creatives who want to do things differently. I'm so excited for this episode because we finally have a guest on the pod, and they are from all the way from my home country of Australia. The artist is called Sandra Gan. I'm just so excited about this conversation because it was just so valuable. I loved every minute that I spent speaking with Sandra, just hearing about what she's been going through the past 3 years since I last saw her. When I first met her, it was in a studio and we were just listening to music and sharing music and giving thoughts. And, you know, she had just started producing and just started writing, and she, you know, let us in on it, which I think was so cool and so special. So just to hear about what she's been up to in the last 3 years and just to kind of see her progression, I just thought it was really awesome, and I can't wait to share it with you. So hope you enjoy this episode. I hope it brings value to you. Just make sure that you like and you subscribe and that you share this. We have some awesome things happening within the network, and I'm just can't wait to share it all. Just right now I can't. So see you on the other side.
You're in Nashville right now?
I am in Nashville. Some other names that it's called is Smashville, which I feel like is very Australian. I feel like Australian. There was a lot of
Yeah,
Australians.
like Radelaugh, like, you know, we're
Oh
so
my
trash, so proud of it.
dude, I could never get behind Radelaide. I was so against it.
It honestly, Adelaide is not Radelaugh anymore. If
Oh,
you're in
really?
Adelaide now, there's just so much going on in the city. They're all building like new stuff, and it's now named apparently like the world most beautiful city. I don't even know if that's real, honestly. I think Adelaide bought that title. You know, it's like I feel like Adelaide in the past 2 years has just become so much more busier.
Mm-hmm.
Um, who the fuck knows? Maybe he's I don't know.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah.
I'd actually love to kind of get some insight on what's going over there because I've been in
Yeah,
Nashville for like 3 years now. So
I know.
it's so crazy just to be hearing about like what's going on in the city. Like, what are the changes? Are the Moles Balls still there? Did they move south a little bit? Like, is that a running joke still? Like, what's going on?
But I think the pairs of metal ball is still exactly where it was.
Yeah.
I don't think it was, yeah. I
So the
don't know
balls
what.
didn't drop. That
No, it
was
didn't drop. It hasn't dropped.
yeah. So
Yeah.
anyone listening in Adelaide where Sandra is, there are these it's meant to be artwork, and
Mm.
there are these giant, if you can think of like
Pair of testicle.
they look, yeah, we would call them Adelaide's testicles.
Yes.
Because there were these like big silver balls that were stacked on top of each
Top of
other.
each other.
And I don't know what that was about, but
Yeah.
it was in this street that would be like basically a mall. So there was shops and
Yeah.
restaurants
It's
and
the famous
cafes,
shopping street.
and you would just like be able to walk up and down it, and no traffic. So
Moles
like
ball.
if anyone's listening in Nashville, just picture like Broadway, but like cars can't drive up and down it. So it's like
No.
closed off. And then
I just read the history.
picture right in the
Sorry?
middle these giant aluminium balls just stacked on top of each other. And what was going to happen apparently was they were going to move the balls down the mall just a little bit.
Okay.
So that was like a running joke of like Adelaide's balls are going to drop. And so, yeah, I'm getting updates now, right? Live from Adelaide. The Moles balls did not drop.
Yeah, but what do I know? I live in a cave unless I have to go into the city to work. So maybe,
Yeah.
you know, I'll be like, oh, maybe it's not there anymore. But I
Yeah.
just read it. It's so funny. It said Mole's Bowl. It's a common meeting place for visitor to the mall. Erected. It's erected in 1977. They were commissioned by some absorb into the honestly, it just seems like someone thought it was a really cool artwork. So they
Yeah.
just popped it in the middle
In
of the city.
post edits, I'm definitely going to put up pictures because I feel like this is just
Yes,
wonderful insight for
for
just
sure.
everyone
And
checking in. Oh, sorry,
I
go
want to
ahead.
talk a bit about you first.
You want to talk about me? Okay.
Yes, because
We'll give like
I
5 minutes. We can talk about me.
oh okay, because I was like I have met you like a while ago, and you know now you're in
Yeah. Oh,
America.
how about we start with that? Let's talk about how we met.
We met at like a workshop at the studio that was
Hmm.
maybe was it 3 years ago? When you were
Yeah, I think it
just
was.
before you
Yeah, it was probably like about
3
3.5 years
and a half
ago.
years ago
Yeah,
before
I would say.
you moved to Nashville. I met you then, and then at the time I was still just started writing music. I was
Yeah.
very uncomfortable with sort of showing my song. It was like really a massive challenge for me. But obviously 3 years from now, it's just, just taking like little steps and naturally it's just like, oh, okay, now we can just actually just perform and make music without being so like afraid of just showing your work to someone or
Mm.
when you first started doing your like differently podcast things, I think it was like end of last year or beginning this year.
Hmm.
It was quite cool because I was like, oh my God, I think I was going through sort of similar internal sort of awakening about like what does it mean when I make art? I
Right.
did it because I like it, but now it's like I feel like this is not just it doesn't just stop here because then what's next? You be a good singer and then you get signed to some label when you sing, they make money off you, you have a rich
Yeah.
life
Yeah.
rich life on that
Not
looks
really.
rich on the outside. And then
Right.
when you were, started posting your stuff, I was like, wow, this is such a blessing because someone that I knew a few years ago who's like moved around, but now is on the same journey of like I think it just validate what I was going on in it was the idea that was going on inside of me and you were actually doing it. And I
Hmm.
was just like, I think it's probably like a mass thing. I think a lot of
Right.
people are maybe starting to think about um, you know,
The
the intention.
purpose. Yeah, intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, when we met at the studio, like you were just like producing your stuff. You hadn't
Yeah.
even shown it to anybody. Like that was like the first time. And I remember because you were super shy and you're just like, I have this song. I just like
I was so
sometimes
nervous.
write. And I know like being in this for quite a while, usually when people say that, it's always fucking dope. It's like whenever
No,
someone,
not
no, it's always true. Like whenever someone's like,
really.
yeah, I just kind of like write a little bit and I don't know about it. It's always like they're really good. And it's always like the dopest thing you'll ever hear. But I remember listening to it just being like, yeah, this is so sick, like with your vocals and all the beats that you were doing. I can't remember what song you showed. Have you
No,
released it since then, or you haven't
not the one
even?
that I
Not
show
that
on the
one, right,
thing.
right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of song. Perhaps what you hear was just like, oh, she actually is maybe doing it with her heart because it maybe
Yeah.
doesn't sound like exactly the same. Maybe that's the quality you remember. Um, One of the songs I did show doing that is the one that's I'm just releasing this month. I think I took a bit longer in terms of like I think spending sort of personal relationship with music before I started releasing. But I think, things work out the way it does for certain reason. And I see how it's like benefit me now when I do release music, it feels like I've worked longer, like I've worked the hours I needed to before putting it out there and facing perhaps like all of these, facing just like, I think it's just probably vulnerability when people like hear your stuff.
Yeah, it's always super scary, especially when like you're first getting into it and then
Yeah.
you're trying to like share that with people and you're just kind of like, hey, and because like we're all writing songs about like really personal things,
Yeah.
like shit
Well,
we've been through
ideally, yeah. Not
and then
everyone is writing songs about
well, yeah,
personal things.
most people are,
Most
and
people,
then you're just
yeah.
like sharing it with a stranger, being like, I hope you
Yeah.
like it, but like here's all
Yeah.
my trauma. And
And
yeah.
about
So
that.
I've listened to Dream like 5 times in a row because that's what I like to do when someone sends me a song.
That's great. Five
Yeah.
times in a row.
Yeah, because I felt like that was the sweet spot of like when someone
Mm,
says, "Hey, can you listen to this?" and if they want feedback or whatever, or they just want me to listen to it. I find like by the fifth time, you kind of get to know it a little bit, so you get to
yeah.
like really listen. And I think it's a really fucking cool song.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. So,
Thanks.
um, where, like, what was kind of happening around the time of like you were writing that? Like, where was that song like birthed? Paint the picture for me.
Um, in terms of physical reality, it's birthed in this room,
Yeah.
most likely with some moody lighting and maybe it's like a late night. Um, it was birthed during a time, I think when I was studying like music production, just finishing at SAE.
Hmm.
And during that time, I was single, I wasn't really working a lot, I was working a casual job, and it was a time where I just have the time to do nothing.
Hmm.
So what I would do is I would just play around with beats. It honestly came out intuitively. Like most of the song I started like nowadays I can have a bit more intention, understand what that mean, like the direction. But when I first started doing music, it's just whatever feels right, I put it together and
Hmm.
the same as the song. And then when I feel a certain thing, I just started singing into the mic. I don't think I understand what was happening to me in that moment, but looking back and looking at the lyrics, I was like, wow, I really my subconscious conscious understood what I'm going through,
Hmm.
even though my conscious is not fully aware. Like this song that I wrote 3 years ago resonate with me now
Hmm.
more than I recognize it back then. And it was just I think it's two things. I think spiritually I was growing. And the
Hmm.
second thing was just some stupid love relationship triggers it. I think it was just this boy. And then I was realizing I wasn't really being able to be vulnerable ever with in relationship. And with this particular person, I was just like, okay, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to do the right thing and be vulnerable. Because if I'm not vulnerable, I don't think I could ever really be in love. I would
Right.
just be walking around with a mask.
Hmm.
That was the beginning, the reason why I was singing that song.
Hmm.
But as the lyrics came out, I think it's a little bit more. It's just like needing to just learn to be vulnerable, whether it's for relationship or when it comes to writing my music about what I want.
Hmm.
Oh, it's so vague. I'm so sorry. I'm
No,
really bad at explaining.
I don't think it's vague. I think it's like
Yeah.
spot on. Like vulnerability is
Mm,
really hard. And
mm,
that's why I think what that's what makes music so powerful.
yeah.
Because it's like for a song to really speak to people or have some kind of impact, like the artist has to allow to share that space, which as
Yeah.
people, we are really terrible at. Like, we're not good at showing our vulnerability. Like, we're terrified of it. That's why we're all
Yeah.
unhealthy for each other. And
That's
or
why
it
everyone's
takes,
sick. Yeah.
yeah, and that's why everyone's sick. Or, there's people that are just have triggers or all this sort of stuff. And we're
Mm,
all just trying to then, as we're, trying to be more healthy or are starting to understand ourselves or have this awareness, all these patterns that, that we're in and these cycles
yeah.
trying to navigate all of that like it's I think musicians are some of the bravest people out there
Mm.
because they're just intentionally being like, hey,
And
here's my vulnerability.
here's
Like,
my vulnerability so
right.
that maybe we can all learn something from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave you with this question. What I try to like remember to ask this question. Sometimes I ask it, sometimes I don't. But what is something that you would do different? And it could be thinking of a
Different.
moment in the past where you're like, I would do that differently. Or it could be something now that you're seeing that I'm in this kind of like same, maybe limiting belief when it comes to approaching things. Here's a
Yeah.
way that I would do it different.
I don't feel like I would do anything differently about the past.
Hmm.
Yeah, I actually I feel very content or now like I think perhaps those few years while writing music but not thinking so much about releasing it really helps me to ground myself and what's important.
Hmm.
I feel very privileged and content about my relationship with music because it came from when I was 19, I couldn't even recognize I could do music.
Hmm.
So I think now being able to make music is just like that in itself for me. It's like I'm content, and everything else that come is a bonus. And obviously, when it comes to living life, you want to live fearlessly and you want to burn right in the right way. So
Right.
then that will naturally, I just believe it will push yourself to the right direction.
Hmm.
Nothing I would change about the past, even like the worst thing and the worst nights. It's just divine.
Yeah.
Everything's just divine right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's so true.
that's how I've been feeling this year,
Hmm.
specifically in the past
Hmm.
3 or 4 months. Yeah,
Yeah. You're
sorry, no
making
answer.
no, no, it's like you're making peace with the past, which I think is so important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
past is
Yeah. It's been there, done that.
it's memories.
Yeah. Don't need to
Good
look back.
memories, bad memories, that's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Tying back to the song, in the
Right.
dream
Right.
song, it's
Yeah.
said at the end, right? It said at the end, I don't want to live on the safe side anymore.
Hmm.
Um, I can't remember my own lyrics.
That's all
Like
good.
the spirit, like materialistic thing is getting me bored. Da, 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 and you are one of them. So I think that song's tie backs to where I'm feeling right now. It's
Mhm.
just, spiritual line. Like
Um,
towards the end, it's like dream. I mean, I'm
yeah,
always
those chops are so cool as well. I
having a
love those
fucking
vocal
smile. Being
chops.
like,
Yeah.
yes, it's a
Yeah.
rave night. It's like a spiritual rave music,
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah. But thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome. I want to do more interviews with my fellow countrymen. Um
Yeah, fellow countrymen from down south.
down in Rattleage. But
Yeah.
yeah, this has been like such a cool conversation. And it was so great to like catch up with you again too. And just to see like your evolution and your progress from like when I first saw you in the
Mm.
studio, like just really shy and like all that to like now where you're just like coming out like swinging.
Intense.
Yeah. Um,
Intense. Know what she want to
yeah.
say.
Yeah. If you like content like this, make sure you like and subscribe to stay up to date. You can also join the Differently Network where you can watch full episodes. You also get to see the guests that we have on. You can also be a guest yourself on the podcast. So just check the link in the description. And I will look forward to meeting you and chatting with you and welcoming you to the Differently Network.